Well, thanks for watching Market Day Report on this Friday. Good morning. I'm Suzanne Alexander. Like most years, 2022 was an eventful time for ag law developments impacting farmers across the country. We now want to take a moment to break down a few recent court cases and what they mean for agriculture. And the man who knows just how to do it, Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. Roger, as always, thanks for joining us. The first case that we're going to look at involves a mouse designated as an endangered species, and I'd like you to speak to that case.
Yeah, you're right, Suzanne, and you're open. There are a couple of big cases that are headed to the U.S. Supreme Court, but this is not one of them, at least not right now. But what happened was back in 2014, the Fish and Wildlife Service listed the New Mexico meadow jumping mouse as an endangered species based on what they thought was substantial habitat loss and fragmentation from grazing and water management and wildlife, as well as drought. Well, in 2016, then the Fish and Wildlife Service designated 14,000 acres along 170 miles of streams and waterways in New Mexico as habitat for the mouse, and then fenced it off. Some of that went through federal land that ranchers had grazing rights to, which then impacts their water rights. And so they sued, claiming, look, we need to be compensated for the loss of our water rights for grazing these cattle.
Is there a takeaway for producers, for livestock organizations with this case?
Yeah, the federal appellate court, this got all the way through to the 10th Circuit, and the appellate court said, no, the government doesn't have to consider the value of your water rights. And the takeaway is that once habitat designation is made and a species is listed under the Endangered Species Act, the value of your lost property rights is really does not have to be considered by the federal government. That's not a primary concern to them. So you got to be really careful that the Endangered Species Act has a lot of teeth in it, a lot of negative implications for landowners.
Wow. Another big case has to do with Dicamba drift, and I'd like you to give us a little background there.
Yeah, this is a case that involved Missouri's largest peach operation, and the farmer claimed that his peaches were destroyed after Monsanto and BASF conspired to develop and market dicamba-tolerant seeds and dicamba-based herbicides, and they claimed that the damage to the peaches occurred when dicamba drifted from application to neighboring fields, and it drifted over onto them. And they claimed that, well, the Monsanto, which was then bought out by BASF, released that seed, but no corresponding herbicide that could be safely applied. And so the farmers illegally sprayed an old formulation of dicamba that was unapproved for in-crop over-the-top use and was volatile and very prone to drift.
So what was the final ruling there?
Well, it's still in the courts with respect to the punitive damage award. Damages, the jury came in with $15 million in compensatory damages and $250 million in punitive damages against Monsanto. The appellate court reversed that, and they remanded on the punitive damage award. So the $15 million sticks. That $250 is not going to stick on appeal. It'll be something less than that. But, I think the big takeaway on this one, Suzanne, is that the companies cannot, there's two things. First of all, companies can't let their technology get ahead of the government's regulatory process. These companies are really good at developing these products, and they do so at a quicker rate than the government can regulate. And so if you don't have the approvals in place, you have to wait. Well, there's a competitive market to this stuff, and I understand why the companies want to push forward. And secondly, farmers always have to follow label directions. There's some of that going on in this situation, too. So I think those are the two main points coming out of this case.
Great insight, as always. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. Thank you for joining us, and I know you're going to be back with us a little bit later at 1 Eastern. Roger back once again, and he's going to review a boundary dispute and how that's impacting farmers this year.